Since 2003, this is the Sports Source, East Tennessee's #1 sports talk show.
Presented by Pipe Wrench, and by Junk Be Gone, and by the Garza Law Firm.
With your host, John Pennington. The Sports Source starts now.
Good Sunday morning and welcome into the Sports Source here in the Junk Be Gone studios. Happy to have you with us. We have a packed show today. The Volunteers had a good week on the basketball court. We'll talk big picture as well. We'll look at their strengths and weaknesses, tell you why they will reach the Sweet 16 this year, tell you why they won't reach the Sweet 16 this year. We'll debate those two things. We'll also talk plenty of Tennessee football. We'll even take some time to point fingers and laugh at Florida football for their NIL debacle this week, and we'll talk about how that plays across the entire college sports spectrum right now with the NIL stuff. Let's get into it. First segment of this program is brought to you by our friends at the Garza Law Firm. When it comes to top-notch legal help in East Tennessee, and I mean anywhere in East Tennessee, Marcos Garza and the Garza Law Firm are who you need to turn to. They spent years and years helping your neighbors with their legal issues, and they could do the same for you all across the area. They even opened a new office recently up in Jacksboro, as a matter of fact. GarzaLaw.com is where you can learn more about Marcos and his crew, the Garza Law Firm. All right. I want to welcome in the first wave of panelists we have today. Right over here, it's the duo from 99.1 The Sports Animal. Vince Ferrara right there. Vince, thanks for joining us.
Appreciate it.
Next to you, Josh Ward. Josh, thanks for being back with us.
Thanks, Sean.
Right over here, former Division I basketball player at Milwaukee, though it was Wisconsin-Milwaukee when you played there, now just Milwaukee. Also, former assistant coach under Bruce Pearl and Conzo Martin here at the University of Tennessee. Mark Pancratz. Mark, thanks for always jumping in and telling us, keeping us straight when it comes to basketball.
Thanks.
All right. The Volunteers, as I said, they got off the deck against Mississippi State this week, bounced back from an ugly Kentucky loss, really their only stumble in the SEC so far. Knocked off Mississippi State on the road at Starkville, won by 11 down there, and then yesterday went into LSU, who's struggling this year, there's no question, but still, once again, you go in there, you win 77-56. So you're having easy road wins, which not something you can count on in this conference a lot of times. So it was a good week for Tennessee basketball. The Vols are now 16-3 overall, 6-1 in SEC play with 11 conference games to go. Mark, your takeaways from what you saw at Baton Rouge or what you saw this week?
Well, it reaffirms the depth that this program has. I mean, you go down to Mississippi State and you're missing two starters at a time, guard positions, your starting point guard and key, and then yesterday you're without Euros, and so the depth it continues to be there. Josiah and Julian, those guys are playing really well right now. Julian just is more confident the last couple of days, creating more space, knowing where he's getting his shots. Attacking the rim a little bit more. And then Josiah just consistently is knocking down perimeter jump shots. He's making big shots in big moments. Mississippi State, they made some threes. That game was pretty close. It was scary there for a moment. And Josiah makes a big shot from three, and so he's stepping up.
13 points at Starkville, 22 yesterday, and none from the free throw line. It's all from the floor. So a good day from Josiah Jordan James yesterday and earlier in this week, as Mark said. Gentlemen, your reaction to what you saw yesterday or this entire week?
Yeah, and playing a lot of minutes, which I guess could cause concerns like, well, can he hold up? But I would say, well, that they've got confidence in Josiah going out there and playing that amount of minutes right now in the starting lineup. So him and Phillips are just, their matchup problems, small ball lineup to open up the game with Josiah at the 4. And didn't have Plavsic, but I think that's a sign of what we could see moving forward is Josiah at the 4, Julian with more that he can do at the 3, and versatility with the lineup with the guys that come off the bench.
Yeah, I love that new starting lineup. And Ziegler had to do it 2 games ago, and then Rick Barnes stuck with it, which makes a lot of sense. Supposedly, he was hesitant to have Ziegler get into early foul trouble, which at times has happened in some first halves. But you can't worry about that. You have to get off to better starts, and they have with him in there. That's your best 5 right there. That's your most trusted 5. So run with it and then see the minutes you can get from it. Tennessee now has won their last 9 games away from Thompson-Boling Arena. 6 consecutive SEC road games going back to last year, plus the 3 they won in Tampa in the SEC tournament. 21 of the last 23 games they've won in conference play. And 11 of those have been double-digit wins, kind of to your point.
Yeah.
So and you can even look at things with this team and say, well, they could do this better. They shoot the three too much. They'll get the free throw line up. What about the inside scoring? And they still overcome that. It's really impressive what they're doing right now.
Let me be the jerk and just ask. One, credit Tennessee for being on it's a historic run for the program. And I mean, those kind of numbers, hard to beat those numbers. So there can't be that many times in school history where you've done those kind of 20-game spells. Mm-hmm. But is that a sign that the SEC may be a little top-heavy right now, as opposed to as deep? In the past, we always talk about anywhere on the road in the SEC is tough. So I'm not trying to take away from Tennessee. I'm just asking the question. You're going on the road. You're having such ease with a lot of these teams. Does that speak to maybe the SEC is more top-heavy this year than it has been years past, or do you give Tennessee all the credit?
No, I think there is a distinct difference to the bottom four to the top four. But still win on the road.
Exactly.
And having not two-year starters is a big thing. And also from the perspective of, we were talking about before the show, of, 14 of the top 25 teams in the country last week all lost.
Yeah,
and so
more than half.
More than half of the top 25. Kansas lost twice, and they're a top 5 team. So in basketball, you're just going to have more of the losses like Kentucky. But we can't sit here and get all really excited about Tennessee from what they did against these two average or below average SEC teams. They do have some challenges. The free throw line to me is one of them. I think they shot 7 free throws yesterday. That's just a sign of if they're not going to make 50% from 3 or 40% from 3, right, can they get to the free throw line and be able to win those games?
Yeah, and as you say, it's no surprise this week against the two foes, but once again, the numbers we threw out last week, the two that kind of stand out. You did shoot better from 3 than both of your opponents this week. You did out-rebound both your opponents this week, and when you do that, Tennessee typically wins the ball game.
But their defense, right? Yeah. They forced a bunch of turnovers yesterday. That's the one thing that this team, number one defense in the country, is going to travel with them everywhere. And yesterday they created 33 points off turnovers.
Yeah, and in the Mississippi State game, it's tied at the half. First half was a brutal watch. Yeah. And you're down a couple of guys, and it's easy in that kind of game for it to just kind of slip away. And then Zakai Ziegler, who plays 40 minutes in the game, says, okay, I got to hit some shots. And he does. And he steps up and plays bigger like you hope from a really good team who's down a couple of guys in the second half. So I think that's kind of the statement, the final 20 minutes of that game on the road.
Well, Ziegler not only 40 minutes down there, he also got 37 more minutes yesterday. Yeah. So 77 minutes this week from your sophomore point guard.
He has 48 assists in the last 6 games. I mean, it's 8 per, 4 per half. I mean, that's just ridiculous. That's high level.
Yeah.
You have College game day coming in next week. Tennessee plays Georgia middle of the week, and then they've got Texas coming in here for the final. This is the final SEC Big 12. Next year it goes SEC, ACC?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay. Final SEC Big 12 challenge. So Texas comes here. Tennessee went out there and lost a close game last year. College game day in town. I saw the stat floating around somewhere that Tennessee's the only school in the country that's had college game day in town for football, men's basketball, women's basketball, and baseball. Mm-hmm. So pretty good there. Mark, the importance of having college game day. Look, it's not the same as college game day for football. That shows a juggernaut. But still, to have those people here, it's not the first time they've been here, but to have those people here, to have the eyes on the program, what's the value of that for Rick Barnes and his crew?
Well, I think it is more from a fan's perspective. Recruits these days with all the access and the Twitters and the TikToks and all that stuff, it doesn't resonate.
You're sounding old. You're younger than me, man.
But with the fans, I mean, it is a big deal. I mean, it's fun for the players. It's fun for your fans to be able to watch the show, and they're talking the fun and love stories of Tennessee basketball. So you get your moment as a fan. But from a recruiting perspective, I don't think it moves the needle at all, especially in the NIL world, which we'll talk about later.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later. It's more important to have $13 million in hand and ready to hand to a prospect. All right, let me tell you what's coming up the rest of this show. We're going to talk about hoops pluses and minuses. What are the strengths and weaknesses of this team? Florida's NIL debacle, which Mark just referenced. Nico passes Arch in terms of the quarterback prospect rankings. So Nico Iamaleava is now number 1, Arch Manning number 2. Who's got the better quarterback coach? Is it Nico or Arch down there with Steve Sarkisian? We'll discuss that. Plus, UT's top NFL prospects. A new list of the top 100 came out, and we'll tell you who is on that list from Tennessee. We'll tell you who's on top of that list, and I guarantee you it's not who you think. Plus, much, much more. So, when we come back on the Sports Source, we're going to talk about 3 reasons, their biggest strengths, 3 reasons Tennessee will reach the Sweet 16 this year. Coming back on the Sports Source.